Hey guys, this is SuperBoi Comics coming at you with a new review for Venom number 8, Legacy number 173. It was written by my boy, Donnie Cates, with art by Iban Coelho or something. Sorry, I don't know how to say your name, but I do like your art. So there you go. So this issue starts off with Venom visiting the grave of Flash Thompson. And this is a really great sequence. We get a little bit of inner monologue with Eddie Brock. He's talking about how his symbiote, really misses Flash and had a deep attachment to him, and how currently the symbiote is brain dead or comatose. They're not talking anymore. They can't communicate. But when they were, talks about how the symbiote actually liked Flash Thompson more than it liked Eddie Brock. So that's really interesting to see Eddie carrying the burden of this symbiote with him, even though he knows that it actually liked this other guy a little bit more. It's kind of like Eddie Brock is the symbiote's rebound girl, which is a little funny to think about. But it is really compelling. It's really good to see this sort of anguish he's in, obviously, over losing a loved one. Basically, his loved one is comatose and he can't speak to it. And so he's talking to this guy, sort of lamenting this loss he has. And then cut to the Maker, and he's like, hey, are you done? And he's like, I guess. And then, what a twist. What a twist. It was a simulation, guys. It was a simulation. I don't know. It just doesn't make it doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't really contribute anything to the story. Now, Flash is in the story, so I understand why they did this, but all of that stuff would have worked so much better if they just put it at the end of the book, and you'll see why. So we get to the meat of the story, which is that the Maker, who's an evil scientist, Ultimate Universe version of Mr. Fantastic, has captured Eddie Brock, and he recently acquired a little vial of a dragon symbiote from a few issues ago. Someone stole it. And so now he wants Eddie's symbiote to experiment on it and maybe wake it up. And then we find out nothing. We really don't find out what the Maker's motivations are for capturing Eddie and why he wants the symbiote. It's never clear to us. He makes some very vague comments about the advancement of scientific research, revolutionized scientific progress, and it's all very vague and unclear. And when a villain's motivations are vague or unclear, it makes the conflict between said villain and the hero kind of lackluster. And so as a whole, this particular issue of the series felt a little bit lackluster just because of that missing tension, since we don't really know what the villain wants. But, of course, Eddie gets mad. Maker starts saying some smack, starts talking about Flash Thompson, how he's got a little copy of Flash Thompson, this little vial of his. It's not really Flash Thompson, it's like a symbiote version of his consciousness. And he's talking about digging up Flash's body. So Eddie gets mad, he Venoms out, they throw hands, they beat each other up. Venom manages to get the Maker into a little bin here. And then Eddie Brock's on the run. He manages to steal a little vial, and we get Agent Venom, which is cool, because Agent Venom's cool, and it's nice to see these little moments that Flash Thompson and Eddie Brock get together, even if it's not really Flash Thompson. They have a little moment here together, talking to each other. He lets Flash take over, so we just get one last little ride with Agent Venom before, he goes away forever, because as Brock says, the little symbiote copy of his consciousness is only temporary, so he's not going to be around forever, but we just get this really cool moment where they accept that Flash Thompson was a badass Venom, which is true. Flash Thompson was a badass Venom, and it was really cool to see Agent Venom again after he died in Amazing Spider-Man 800. And then we cut back to the Maker, and he's making more sort of vague, oh, well, we didn't get the symbiote. I wonder who stole it. Oh, well. He says, there is still the open question of who raided my lab and stole the dragon sample. There's still the open question of what you want to do with the symbiote, because we still don't know. And I wish we did, because I bet it was a really interesting reason, if only we knew about it. But then we get all these teases for this other stuff he's going to do, and that's cool. I just really wish they would have explained his motivation. That would have really made this comic really tied everything together. And then we get this sequence of Eddie Brock going to Flash Thompson's real grave and talking to him. And this is what I was talking about. I wish that all that great material we saw at the beginning, with Eddie Brock really opening up his heart to Flash Thompson and talking deeply about his relationship to the symbiote, and how when the symbiote was with Flash, it sort of changed the dynamic between Eddie and the symbiote, was all great stuff. I just wish they would put it here, because I think it would have had a lot more impact at the end of the story after we got to see Eddie interact with Flash's consciousness again. That would have been really cool. I think that would have made the pacing a little bit more solid, and you sort of don't have to explain why Eddie was in this weird simulation thing, because it's never really explained and doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Even with all of that, it's still solid, it's still fun, and it's still great action, pretty good art. All this stuff is interesting and cool. We see Eddie Brock's going back to San Francisco, which is where sort of he hangs out now, and we get this great little teaser at the end for the next story, which is going to have Carnage. Carnage is back, baby. So that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to that. So overall, this issue felt a little fillery, if I'm being honest. Just kind of a fun little nod to Agent Venom. We got to see him back in action for a bit, and that was really fun. The potential of the Maker doing something with the symbiote is interesting, especially since in the Ultimate Universe, the symbiote was supposed to be like a cure for cancer, and maybe the Maker wants to do something like that with the symbiote, but we don't find out what, which is really frustrating. I wish we had figured out what the Maker wanted with the symbiote. I think that would have made the issue overall a lot more interesting to read, and it would have given us a little bit of insight into the main conflict between Eddie Brock and the Maker. But as it is, it's a solid issue. I still liked it enough. Would I recommend it? I think you could pass on this one and sort of read the summation they put at the beginning of these in the next issue, and you wouldn't really miss anything. But it was okay. Sorry, Mr. Cates. I'm a big fan. It just wasn't my favorite. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked it. I hope you'll stick around for the next video, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.